the magician, the trickster, the illusionist, the conjurer, the sorcerer, warlock, necromancer, wizard. Just a few synonyms to describe this little feller here. Now, he's not 100% done, but he is just about there. So I just wanted to make a quick video. The physical and metaphysical. So what exactly do I mean by this? Well, let's break down each one. So when I talk about the physical idea of the magic trick, I'm talking about, say, like trick cards, or perhaps what you might would describe as, say, like an escape hatch. Oh, that's how he did it. He had the key hidden, unlocked something. And again, a physical, you kind of go, oh, I see now how it's done. Now, the metaphysical is something that I would say is maybe a little bit trickier to understand and even explain. Like I said, I'm going to keep this all very simple. But I would describe this as perhaps a hallucination. The person is actually believing they're seeing something that perhaps isn't even there. And again, so I would almost call this something of like a perception, or the trick of the mind. And to maybe explain it a little bit further, I would say perhaps something like hypnosis, where through that auto-suggestion, or whatever they describe it as, you believe like you're a chicken or something. Like someone can convince you're a chicken, and then you snap out of it. Now, this is where I'm getting into this idea of, I would call it, alchemy. Now, here is a simple definition of the word alchemy. I was going to perhaps maybe read from Wikipedia. Everyone knows it's the true, authentic source for information. But like I said, I want to keep this light. And of course, with alchemy, we get into this idea of the philosopher's stone. Now, clearly there is more than just this kind of idea of turning, like, say, what they would describe as the base metals into gold. We can look at this more metaphorically, or supernatural. Again, metaphysical is the word I'm using. But the transmuting is the word just to focus on. Something appears to have changed. I want to mention this movie, Hudson Hawk. Now, this is what I mean by physical. Now, in the movie, clearly, obviously, it's a fantastic movie, but in it, the characters are looking for 3 pieces of what looks to be some kind of like puzzle. Maybe like a Rubik's Cube that was created by Leonardo da Vinci. And the rumor is that when you put these 3 pieces together, the interlock, and whether it's the sun or this machine, the transmuting process will occur. And say you take like a brick of lead, and you will turn it into gold. So this is what I mean by physical. So it's almost like gunpowder, right? The chemist takes the different elements, the powders, mixes them together, you set it on fire, explosion. Okay. Now, the perception I'm trying to talk about, kind of in the metaphysical idea of, say, turning something kind of maybe not worthless, but something, of lesser value into something of value, would be, say, take the idea of painting, perhaps. That and the art world has of course been tricked into this constantly. A chicken or a monkey could do a painting, and then you look at even, like, say, Jackson Pollock paintings of just dripping paint, and people will be like, oh my god, like this is amazing. Other people just think it's crap, right? But then they'll be like, oh, that's $100 million, or like, just something outrageous. So that would be the idea of, like, clearly you see that this has taken any skill to accomplish. And again, I think there was this story about the Rockefellers who hung, I think Nelson Rockefeller in the bank, he hung up, I think, a Jackson Pollock upside down, and no one even noticed. But again, you've taken just like the paint drips, doesn't matter, and you put this outrageous price tag on it, and then someone pays for it. Now, this is what I would call kind of that same idea of the, metaphorically speaking, you've turned something more or less worthless into something of value. So again, this transmutation. Sex magic. Now, I was going to talk about Aleister Crowley, but, do your own research. He was on the cover of Sgt. Pepper's. Now, he was into something called sex magic, obviously the occult. He was a spy, British spy, I believe. And so, but he did definitely practice what some people would call black magic. Now we're getting into this idea of good and bad magic, the black and white. And again, now we're getting into this almost this historical idea of wizards, and who were kind of associated with like either angels and demons. So we're getting into some little bit crazy stuff here with the magic, but I'm going to let you do some of your own research. I'm not going to just try to explain it. But again, these are all associated with the magician, all these ideas injected into this toy. I would like people to think about, but you're going to have to do your own research into this idea of sex magic. Again, a lot of it takes place in the mind. And again, I would also say in the collective consciousness of people, and of course the collective unconscious. Now, I want to talk about another film called The Prestige. And this was a terrific film as well. One magician, he was kind of referred to as a lifetime actor. Maybe not those particular words, but that his whole shtick, if you will, the trick is that he never broke character, whether he was on stage or off stage. He always remained in character. I think wrestlers call this kayfabe. So the lifetime actor, this is another element of the magician. And also, we have this concept again in The Prestige of the process of like you do the trick, but also you also need the audience. So you set up the trick, you physically do the trick, and then there's kind of like I think what they call the prestige or the reveal at the end. A ritual. You're not just sitting back and being entertained, but you're also you're a part of it. You're like, without the audience, there would be no performance, if you can follow me. And finally, with the character that David Bowie plays, Tesla, that he has this transporting machine, we have, again, this idea of trying to bring the kind of metaphysical into the physical world, and what I would call science as magic. And I wanted to mention this concept, revelation of the method. So let me just read this out. And I'm not sure if Michael Hoffman came up with this, but here we go. Revelation of the method concerns mind control in the last stages and at a high level. When you tell someone what you're going to do to them, murder, mayhem, kidnap, rape, you name it, and they do nothing to stop you or protect themselves, you have created a doubly enslaved subject. I'm going to keep going. It is a classic psychopathic behavior called normalizing, where one broadcasts one's own sick behavior in order to desensitize those who witness it. This drives the sheeple further into apathy, while those who are awake to the system are openly mocked by its audacity. So what I said before about magic being kind of metaphysical, kind of a perception in the mind, this is what I mean by mind control. Yes, and finally we have the top hat and what all this signifies. Clearly this is a Masonic symbol and also a symbol of the elite. And here are a few examples. We have John D. Rockefeller and his son, John D. Rockefeller II. We have Andrew Carnegie. He was a steel magnate. We have, I believe that's Max Warburg and his associates. And these are all like what I would call that turn of the century, or like the late 1800s. The robber barons, as Mark Twain described them. And there is Mark Twain, again, a Mason with the top hat. Nathaniel Rothschild as well. And let's not forget the Monopoly Man, of course. And what about this fellow from The Wizard of Oz? And right there, wearing the top hat and also the name Wizard. Very common. Now you might wonder, why did I show all these, what I would just like to call oligarchs, the robber barons in their top hats, and this idea of prestige. It's that whole putting on the Ritz. Because I think if you looked into the occult, and again, this idea of secret knowledge, and trying to understand where the money comes from, and again, back to the Philosopher's Stone and the magic of it all, how again, and now again, the bigger picture is, I don't want to get so political and talk about the economy, but again, this idea of value and, of course, wealth. And again, prestige. And again, this idea of gold. And who has the gold? And how is the gold created? And why is it created? It's all very interesting. And the magician, he alludes to everything and lets you know exactly what's going on if you're paying attention.